joining. I know a lot of the aquatic students were kind of maybe paksa rela lah, I tak tahu lah. To join the thing as a continuation of what happened last semester, and I think some of you got a taste of citizen science and a different way of learning where you're not just in the classroom but you're experiential learning because you're learning by doing things yourself. And that's one way in UMass where we're trying to actually empower the students, because you guys are learning at a faster pace than us, than even what we can teach. So actually it's easier if we actually assist you guys in the learning and provide you with the tools that you need to learn and to become, I would say, more powerful learners lah. Okay. So this is one of the projects actually that is under UK grant, and I think the earlier idea of having a hackathon probably came from Floriana, and we all kind of, okay, this is a great platform lah for you guys to try it out. And as you guys mentioned earlier, ramai yang tak pernah join hackathon kan, but maybe you have heard of a hackathon. So every hackathon is going to be different because dia punya ultimate aim is going to be different, right? So in ours now, it's actually the focus is about climate change. Now the reason we chose this and why we work with the coastal communities is because a lot of the concentration of the schools that we're working with in the rural schools for the projects that the Unification Center does is concentrated on rural schools and concentrated on coastal areas, especially rural coastal villages, to see what is the gaps that they have in their community. Gaps, so I'm not sure how many people here live in a fishing kampung. Is there anyone that comes from a fishing village? Mostly come from city. Yes. Mostly budak bandar, right? Okay, so we're going in with our assumption and our what we think are problems, but we don't know, right? What are the real issues that are on the ground? So how do you solve problems if you don't know what they are? So it's one of the steps lah. Okay? By having a hackathon that you can try in a very short time, try to find solutions to problems that you can. Okay, so I'll just go through very quickly about the climate change concepts, because maybe some of you are aware or some of you are not aware, but maybe we align all our understanding for the sake of the hackathon now. So it's actually a presentation that I provide to WWF. So WWF staff about climate change adaptation, the training is done by me for WWF staff. So I adapted it for our use today. Okay. So just basically very quickly about what is climate change and how does it affect us. Yeah. Okay. So I took this from the WWF own page because they have many species of animals that they focus on for their conservation work. And one of the major ones that get a lot of funding is marine turtles. I think those that come from West Malaysia, you are quite aware lah, a lot of issues about turtle, makan turtle eggs. You makan sedap. Marine turtle conservation is very important, and climate change issues actually affect a lot of these species that are on land and in the sea, especially in the sea lah. Because in the sea they can't really run anywhere. So if you know, probably one of the, as we will talk later, one of the main things that you hear about climate change is effective water, right? So the organisms that live in these waters can't escape. They live in that water, not like us. Kalau panas tu on aircon, dia tak ada lah aircon nak on lah. So the only way that we can help them adapt is actually for the environment that they have. So for WWF, a big issue on climate change is about environmental conservation. So they talk about that they love turtles, and turtles are very much affected by climate change. So if you are into conservation, climate change is also an issue for you. Of course, you can just Google and find any answer you want on the internet. But when you Google climate change, what do you find? 145 billion hits. Right? It's a lot, right? So it's like, whoa, like, so what? Where do I look for information? And how do I know what information is real and what is not real? Because there's a lot of arguments about climate change is happening, it's not happening. Okay, so we'll look a little bit into that. I would actually ask that if you want to define what it is and you want to know more, make sure you go to web pages that are proper literature, published literature. For example, look for more information from books or published literature, right? So don't just go to blog or baca on Facebook or Twitter, because that one anybody can write. So the definition that we find in general, right, that I think is quite precise, is that climate change is a change of weather pattern over a long period of time. So when we say long period of time, it is at least 10 years change. Okay. So macam sekarang ni banyak banjir kat Terengganu, kat Kelantan, kat KL, then they suddenly start saying, oh, it's climate change, it's climate change. It doesn't happen in just 1 year or 2 years, suddenly you have it. It is over a long period of time that then you see the impact. Right? So that's one thing to remember, is a change over a long period. So if you look at our Earth, you can see that the Earth has a thick atmosphere. That's the reason that we have life. If we didn't have atmosphere, we wouldn't have life on Earth. Right? We would just be like all the other planets, basically, no life. And because we have this atmosphere, we have something that is natural that's happening. There's greenhouse gases, and this greenhouse effect is actually a natural effect. Dia semula jadi. So it is normal to have a greenhouse effect. If we did not have it, we did not have an atmosphere, we wouldn't have an Earth that is habitable. Right? The problem is when the greenhouse effect is too much gases that make more and more layers of heat. So sekarang dia okay. Lepas tu sekarang ni makin banyak carbon dioxide or any other greenhouse gases, methane, nitrogen gases, then dia macam adding more and more layers of blanket. So it gets hotter and hotter. Right? So the problem is global warming is a side effect of this natural system. It becomes much too hot for us on Earth. Right? I think this statistic maybe you are also familiar, and you can actually go to this website and go and look at this Bloomberg clock. And this clock is actually a ticking clock. I didn't know what that is, but actually it's a ticking clock. So you can tell the real-time rise of this. When I first started doing this climate change adaptation talk about 10 years ago for WWF staff and for Malaysian government officials, this one had not even reached 400. It was only 390 at that time. And why 400 became the threshold? Everyone was like, oh, if it's more than 400 parts per million, then we're in trouble. So what does the 400 parts per million mean? Anybody got any idea? What does the 400 parts per million mean? No idea. If you reach 400 parts per million, it means you are guaranteed a 2-degree rise in temperature by 2050. That means we already are in climate change happening. 2 degrees rise. It's guaranteed if we go past 400. So now we are lebih lagi lah. Dah menang emas dan dua hadiah satu hati sekali. So we already on that track where climate change is definitely happening. It's not about if it's real or it's not real. It is happening already because we already passed that threshold. Right. So if you look at old data, a lot of people say that, oh, you know, it's just the sun cycle. You know, now we are closer to the sun than we ever have been before. Astronomical, they said, it's just the way the planets move. It's nonsense stuff. Because if you look at the data, and this is data that they take from ice cores and historical data that they get from samples. Yeah? You can see that the Earth is relatively stable, of course, up and down every year and with the cycles. But then, in this last, like, I would say, 100 years, right, is when you see this increase. The line, you cannot even see it. Okay? The line goes up until you are here already. Just in these 100 years that we have industrialization. So, you tell me, you believe it's human cause or not human cause? Human cause, mainly due to industrialization. Okay, so, good. If you believe me, The humans are the reason, because sometimes it's very difficult when you are talking to people who are climate change deniers and they don't believe it, even with all the data, they don't want to believe it. Maybe they're scared, maybe they feel like, threatened, I'm not sure. But I think a good way looking forward is that if we know that we are the reason. So for example, fossil fuels are 88% of the reason we have climate change. And another 12% comes from land use change. Land use change is not just deforestation, it's not just burning, it's not just land clearing, it's also urbanization. We are building more and more housing for humans. So actually we got too many people out of Earth. Yeah, we got 3 times more human on Earth than Earth can actually sustain. So maybe things like COVID and all this happen, right? Memang mungkin lah Tuhan nak kurangkan manusia tu, tak tahu. Right? But some people say that, right? Oh, Tuhan marah lah. But the fact is that we brought it upon ourselves lah. Because when we are developing and we're not doing it sustainably, dia terlalu cepat. The environment doesn't have time to balance. Yeah. Then the trouble happens. Alright, so I was telling you just now the temperatures have increased already by 1 degree, but it's guaranteed to increase up to 2 degrees by 2050. Guaranteed already. Right. So, just a very quick video of the temperatures over time. This will be the temperatures compared to the things around the Earth. So you see that the method is nothing but the temperature of that. And as we come to the last year, it's getting moderate, right? Moderate means what? Hotter and hotter, right? The hottest temperatures ever recorded are all in this last 5 years. And every 5 years, it will be the hottest 5 years. Yeah. And maybe we don't feel it because it's a gradual change over a long time. Remember, it's like 10 years, then you feel it. So if you take the temperature 10 years ago, and you take the temperatures now, in general, it is warmer. So it is happening already. So that's a bit scary because even though there are deniers and all that, right? If you read the literature, you read all the published data, it's almost everybody says it's real life. So that's kind of scary, but at the same time, this can be reversed or can be slowed down. It's like if you know you have cancer or you are unhealthy and you have a masalah kesihatan, you can do something to reverse it, right? Most of the time you can slow it down or you can reverse it. So you can see for this, we cannot look at it that like, oh, it's going to happen, so let's just all continue doing business as usual, they say. Because that's how in Malaysia it is. It's business as usual. They know the climate change is happening, but then it's still going on like normal. They know the banjir is happening, but they're still clearing the land. Tak ada beza, business as usual. So, how does this affect a lot of the communities? If you are rich, I think it's not a problem. You will be able to prepare yourself because you have money. The problem is most of our population, our Malaysian population, are going to be B40 and middle class. So when anything happens, then what? So this, they call it a crisis level. Crisis because who will come and help you? When everybody, your neighbors also are in the same problem. Right? So it's going to be a big crisis if you don't plan. Okay? So congrats to us all. We are like the superhero now, okay? So you guys join me in. Hopefully we can try to turn this around, okay? And let's have a feel of what the future is like. Okay? During flooding events, we already see that most cities do flood. Right? Okay? So this flooding is quite a lot of the models will show this data that you will have sea level rising. Yeah? So in Kuching, for example, it's rising by 0.4 centimeter. Maybe it doesn't sound a lot, 0.4 centimeter a year. But 0.4 centimeter a year over many 10 years, sikit demi sikit, lama-lama jadi sikit, right? You will have a this much increase in 10 years. And then another 20 years, another 50 years. That makes a difference, right? The air you masuk kereta you tahu tak? Kalau you kancil memang masalah. So you kena tukarlah, bersedia dan beli kereta Hilux. Tapi beli yang hybrid, okay? Atau yang elektrik. Okay. The science also shows that the storms and the hurricanes will become more and more. And even now we do see that. If you ask your grandmother's generation, how often they have big storms or major storms, especially in the coastal village di tepi pantai. Not as often as now. Now memang some places are like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks dia akan ada major storm and have a flood di kampung. Okay, so when you go to Pasir Panjang, you will see that that is one of the major issues. It's actually when you have storms or hurricanes in the coastal area, dia akan banjir. So dia punya banjir agak teruk lah. I would say quite commonly dia akan banjir sampai sini. Yeah. So it becomes an issue because what you want to do about it, right? What can they do about it? Okay. Then on the other extreme end, one side dia terlalu banyak hujan, and then sometimes kekurangan air. I think in West Malaysia they always have this problem with drought, especially in the cities. Kena ambil air dari lori, lori datang, you kena isi baldi. So how can you be in a tropical country and so much rain and also have drought at the same time? Pelik lah. That means water resource is not managed properly, and that's another issue as well. Right? Another issue is the impact to livestock. So this picture is Australia because I did not get any picture of dead chickens and all that in the kampung. But that is a big problem. So where kalau banjir then ayam tu mungkin dia boleh naik bumbung lah. But then the cows, the goat, dia tak naik bumbung kan. So then how? So memang they lose a lot of livestock. And this is about food security. You know, you complain about harga makanan sentiasa naik. Of course lah sentiasa naik kalau every time the petani semua selalu hilang stok makanan dia kan. And then another food source is the ocean. And if you have these rising temperatures and all these storms always happening, then the corals are also going to be unhealthy. It's the same like us lah. Kalau kita selalu stres, selalu cedera, you akan selalu sakit lah kan. So it's the same for the corals as well. Because you have to remember, corals are animals. So they face a lot of stress. Yeah, the temperature, the storms, everything. Then they will start to bleach. And over time, when they keep bleaching, then they will die. Yeah? So fish that depend on these reefs as homes will not have homes. So kita akan kekurangan stok ikan juga lah. So it becomes another food security issue as well. Okay. So this has already been shown that the fish population, and this is just one example, one fish, Pacific sardine, okay, which is quite common. The sardine yang kita selalu makan in the tin, yeah, they already say this is an old picture, 2017, have already dropped by like 80 to 90%, and by 2050 this fish will be extinct. But kita selalu makan kan, macam banyak je, cat food pun selalu ada, right? They're lying to you lah. We're actually not really eating like that. Most of the time we're eating other types of fish as well. So this becomes an issue. So what is the future generation going to eat? I think this issue is good that young people know about it because this is things that we can do now. Yeah. The politicians already, okay guys, it's like recorded. Okay, but people who are in position of power and make the good decisions, they maybe are not aware of this because maybe by 2050 dia pun dah meninggal. Mungkin anak dia pun semua dah pindah ke luar negara tu. But this becomes an issue for us who are still here. So I think we are the agents of change. When they say agents of change means you guys have the power actually having this knowledge. What you going to do? And if you go to the kampongs and they're telling you that they are having less and less fish, what can we do now? So I hope that this hackathon is a bit like a trigger lah. Of course, we may not have all the answers, but it's just like a way forward lah. Right? So very common pictures like this, where most cities around the world, especially coastal cities, are facing this effect of climate change, especially like sea level rise, where they can't move the city anymore. The city is already built there. Same like in KL, we won't move KL. You know, it's already there. So what are you going to do? So for us, maybe on an individual basis, one of the first few things you can do is ever done a carbon footprint measurement for yourself? Okay, I've done this carbon footprint. It's not, I tried to be good, but it's also not a good result. I think I got like 1.5 Earths. So I live as if we got one planet and a half. That means I'm not doing enough to reduce the carbon footprint. I drive a car, you know, I don't use all A-star appliances, I don't try to save energy, so I could do better, right? So you can try and do this. So you do this not to macam mencari kesalahan sendiri, but you look at where are the gaps so that we can improve. So we know kelemahan tu, kita boleh improve. So that is the main idea. Bukan nak cari kesalahan, tapi cari kelemahan supaya kita boleh tambah baik lah. So you can try with something like this for yourself and have a look at your carbon footprint. Don't worry if you've not done it. When I asked the WWF staff themselves, how many have done this, ramai pun tak buat. Walaupun this footprint calculator is from WWF itself, staff this pun tak buat. So don't feel bad if you have not done it before. But yeah, try to do it so that you can see where you are lah. Alright. So that's it. Little thank you. Yeah. That was just a outline now, basically about climate change and some of the main impacts that will affect the coastal villages and will affect us. So I think I'm open to any questions if there are any. I hope those who are online could actually could see it. Okay, you can definitely see me. I know you all can see me. I pakai kasut tau. Sekarang pakai kasut. Right. Okay. So is there any questions? You can always type in the chat. Tak ada in the chat. How about from the floor? Any questions from the floor? Okay, let's say you don't have question, but you have a reflection. Is it a shock to you? No?
It's happening.
It's happening. Yes, can you share?
Go. Ayo, atas tu.
There is one.
Oh.
It's actually happening because when I was after Form 5, I working with my auntie. After my auntie and she sell wholesale fish because she on various of the sales. So actually, the demand of the fish is rising up, but the supply of the fish is very low because every time the vessel kapal nelayan masuk besar, dia lebih kurang daripada previous day. It's getting lesser and lesser. So that's why Mekah right now is experiencing less fish than before, especially included the umai. That's why right now umai is getting lesser and lesser and very expensive. So from there I reflect on this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there used to be ikan yang kira macam ikan murah lah kan. Sekarang ikan murah tu pun dah sangat mahal. Yeah, you know, one generation, two generation ago, our grandmother time actually, ikan pusuk is like ikan bilis lah. Ikan pusuk is considered like economical fish lah, all mesti dia makan lah. But now it's like considered very expensive fish. Like I wanted to buy it that day and they were saying 1 kilo of the mata biru 1 kilo of the mata biru was 70 ringgit. When in the past, I think it was only like not even 20. Yeah. So that alone, you know, the drives the demand already. And part of it is human because we fish a lot and the demand is high. But a lot of it is also because we are using the homes where these fish can live due to human, due to climate change. So thanks for your sharing. Yeah. Maybe the others who have experience in the last flooding. Were there any who faced flooding in the last? Yeah. I remember you texted me that you had. Yeah. So how was that experience for you? Because first time you dapat kena banjir.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can share with us. If you have time, kan? Yeah. If you have time, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So last time dekat Melaka ini before 6 a.m. So when I woke up, my mother, during that time, my father wasn't at home. He at kampung. So during that time, my mother say that my mother want to go to the masjid, but then cannot, the jalan cannot lalu lah. Lepas tu kita bila bangun tu, dia sekejap je lah air tu naik. Macam kan pukul 6 lebih kurang, air tu macam keluar kat depan dulu halaman je. So after 15 minutes, dia dah sampai dekat rumah. Kan ni kan lantai luar, lepas tu nak naik rumah tu dah ada
Anak tangga.
barrier. Barrier. Itu dia dah sampai situ. So, bila pukul 7 je, air dah masuk dalam rumah. 7 pagi. So, sebenarnya banjir ni kita tak dapat nak predict sebab dia boleh jadi terlalu cepat, terlalu lambat. Dan dia macam mana, on that time dia macam kita akan panic, kita cemas dan apa nak buat sebab first time kan. So macam tak tahulah. Tapi okay lah, it's not very severe. Tapi orang yang dekat bahagian yang rendah, rumah dia kan habis tenggelam. So dia orang memang total loss. Dia orang ada yang duduk sampai atas atap, tunggu seharian untuk dapat bantuan masuk untuk Cina dan tu. So lepas tu dekat sebab rumah tu macam dekat dengan sungai, belakang sungai. Lepas tu sungai punya tepi pun dah pecah. So dia memang masuk air deras gila. So, memang time tu semua macam okay, just ambil je yang boleh ni, duduk kat tempat yang selamat. Tak ada elektrik, tak ada air. Memang pandai-pandai hidup lah.
Scary ya. So I think there's something macam that's good lah that you have that kind of experience, because going in when you talk to the orang kampung, because the ada ramai yang akan biasa tanding macam ni juga. So you dah rasa empathy dengan dia kan, sebab you dah faham because you ever been through it. Those who have never been through it will never understand that rasa takut tu macam mana, you know. So I think going in as well when you are talking, I think we can just say a bit lah, then they go for lunch that when you're going in, a lot of time they are telling you this kind of thing like Dini share with us, it's a trauma for them when they lose bumbung rumah, dia even hilang livestock kan, semua hilang. So we have to be sensitive to how we ask the question when you're dealing with the community, when you go down later. So it's a good experience for you as well, so that kita lebih faham masalah yang dia ada. Okay. So we try to be understanding of them when we are doing the interview. But I think we will be talking about that, right? Teaching them a bit about that later, right? But how to run the interview so that we are empathic with them. Sebab I rasa kadang-kadang susah juga when people ikut ke macam tu, you know, like Didi, like, no lah, how can that be scary, you know? Sebab dia tak pernah rasa kan. Then you don't believe it, you know.
Sekarang pun kalau macam hujan pun macam trauma. Bila lepas sikit
Rasa takut lah. Right.
Macam
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because now last year I pindah to that kampung, knowing that they have flood, I still went there. Tapi macam tu lah, every time can be rain, and then kalau sungai dah parit tu dah hampir penuh, dan hujan lebat, saya tak dapat tidur malam sebab saya risau kan, kereta nanti macam mana, kena pindah kereta ke tak, macam tu lah. So yeah, I totally understand how you feel about it. Then you nak suruh orang belajar lagi, you know, the kids all have to go to school and it's flooded. Parents rasa tak selamat lah because like you said, air deras. Then you want to ask the kids to walk to school, air deras macam tu, takut kan? Buaya lagi. Melaka ada buaya?
sungai tu ada, sungai dalam rumah tu memang
Ada. Dah lah, mesti takut lah, buaya lagi kan. Ukap pun ada buaya kan. So yeah, there's a lot of issues, but hopefully we can decipher that lah. One of the feedback the kampung pun sekarang ni makin banyak buaya. In Sarawak lah, Sarawak Waters. And then even in Sabah yang ada tempat yang dulu tak ada buaya, sekarang dah ada buaya. In Sabah. So I can foresee that maybe turtle, buaya crocodile is gonna be one of the issues that they may bring up for you. Yeah. So sometimes things like this kena we will teach them lah. Okay. So I think maybe it's time for a break. So just give you guys a big clap.